Welcome to the video on multiplying fractions. When we multiply fractions, we're going to use the idea that multiplication is really repeated addition. When I do 3 times 5, I do 5 plus 5 plus 5 to get 15. And that's the way a lot of people actually learn their multiplication tables. So we are going to use that fact. When we multiply fractions, we are going to start with 6 times 1/2, which means I want to add 6 1/2s together. So control. So I've got 6 halves of my pizza, or 6 halves of a pizza, and I want to put them together. If I do 3 times 5, I put 3 5s together. 6 times 2, I put 6 2s together. In this case, I'm going to put 6 halves together. And you've probably figured out already that I'm going to end up with 3 whole pizzas. So multiplying 6 times 1/2 is really the same as dividing 6 by 2. Multiplying by half gives you the same answer as if you divide by 2. And we can look at that. Start off with, I ended up with 6 things, and then I divided it by 2. So we say we multiply 6 times 1/2. We multiply the 6 times the 1, and then divide it by the 2. A lot of people like to say, I'm going to make that 6 over 1, and then have 2 times 1 in the denominator. That's fine. But the idea is, the main idea, multiplying by the half is the same as dividing by 2. We're going to use that here because I'm going to take my 1/3 and I'm going to multiply it by 1/2, which means I'm going to divide it between 2 people. So 2 people are going to share the pizza. So in order to do that, I have to cut my third into 2 pieces, and each one of those is going to be half as big. Half of a third is 1/6. So to get those thirds, to get half of a third, I would need to cut my pizza into 6 pieces. And each person gets one of those. So the answer to 1/3 times 1/2 is 1/6. But I can also think of that in terms of multiplying a half times a third. So I have my half pizza, which is like dividing that into 3 pieces. So I can take my half, cut it into 3 pieces. Each person gets 1/6. So either way, we end up with 1/6. And you notice when we multiply by a half, we're actually changing the denominator. We change the size of the pizzas when we multiply, so that changes the denominator. So I'm going to look at the situation now where we have 2/3 times 1/2, just so it's not 1 in the numerator both times. There are 2 ways I can think about that. I can take each of my thirds and divide them between two people, just like I did before, which would give me 2/6. Or I can just take the whole thing and divide it between, take each of the thirds and give it to each person. So when I divide 2/3 by 2, which is the same as multiplying 2/3 by a half, I either get 2/6 or 1/3. Either way, you get the same amount of pizza.